Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the second episode of the Wrestling Review. My name is Josh Betar, joined alongside my host Tanera Nathan. As in this episode, we're going to be talking about Roman Reigns versus The Rock, and will it be happening in the future? Now, I want to preface this second episode by just letting you know that we are currently about 15 hours out from a huge cyclone that's going to take place in our hometown of the Gold Coast here in Australia. So if this is the last time you see us on camera, we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for choosing the Wrestling Review for your cyclone viewing pleasure if you're on the Gold Coast and just joining in. Overall, we thank you for choosing us as your wrestling platform. We very much appreciate it. Now, firstly, Tanera, before we get started, cyclone going pretty crazy. A lot of trees down. You're working because you're a workhorse. You're the Paul Levesque of the casino and security industry here. So, how is life for you?
Mate, thank you very much for expressing your concerns for me. Whether I'm Triple H, Triple Paul, or Triple T, uh,
Triple
it's
T, Triple
life is
T.
going good. Let me just put my mask on
Mm. Well, this
because
is gonna be a good one.
let me just put my mask on because I don't know if you've heard, Josh, but Cyclone Alfred has formed a partnership with Hurricane.
Oh,
So
Horakova.
yes,
Ooh,
yes, yes. So be careful. And I'm going to and because our topic is Roman Reigns versus The Rock, I'm going to put the people sunglasses on here for our
ooh,
episode today.
that's so much better.
Nothing better than wearing sunnies and a cyclone. But but no, mate, it's crazy. I'm at work. Me and my friend, we have our own security contract, and we do the hospital car park
Mm.
by Griffith Uni. So it's crazy. I'm up on the third level at the moment, so I've got a pretty good view of what's going on. But
Mm.
I mean, I swear Gold Coasters are the best, worst Australians in the country because
Mm.
there's a cyclone coming, and yet everyone's out surfing, swimming on the AFL fields that are flooded. And I even saw one lady playing the pokies, and it
Mm.
looked like it was raining inside. Did you see that one?
Mm-mm. I did not say
No,
that.
no. Well, yeah. Well,
Doesn't surprise me, however.
it doesn't surprise me. And I don't know if you saw my story earlier on this morning, but the craziest thing I saw amongst all of those things was a lady wearing a mask.
And her husband said
Uh,
to you, "Well, they just don't understand." So.
clearly, clearly. And you know what I said to her? Go and like and subscribe to the wrestling review. So that was my only response in that moment. But no, man, life's good. How are you doing? How's things at your neck of the woods?
Good, mate. We are not in a usual setup today. Obviously, got all the makeshift recording equipment. We've got computer to the right. I've got the jacket on just for special effects. I'm currently sweating so hard. I've got the fan on. It's not actually raining inside this house. I just thought I'd wear it for your viewing pleasure. I'm sweating so hard. But I'm doing good. I'll be even better
Mhm,
if this next topic turns out to be happening, which is
mhm,
the Roman Reigns, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock match, which has been talked about for feels like 12 years at this point.
mhm,
It feels like this has been the match ever since Roman Reigns got into the WWE. It's been a talking point, and could it happen? Could it happen? We nearly got it last year. It was scheduled for WrestleMania 39 a couple of years ago, and it still will not be happening this year. It's an really interesting topic because I feel like there's a lot of people online that think it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. We've lost the opportunity. It should have happened last year. Last year was the perfect opportunity for it to happen, and now it's gone forever. I'm of the opinion that Triple Paul is so smart that he's not going to let this one slip. I think the WWE is more so now than when Vince was in charge. I feel like they're so more onto it with what the fans want. They're not going to let this one slip. And I don't think The Rock would ever let this one slip. This is the biggest match in a WrestleMania setting. I think it even eclipses potentially John Cena and The Rock back at WrestleMania 28 and 29, just purely based on, from the Young Rock television series.
mhm.
It's his own family. They're the two of the biggest stars. Roman's, the biggest star of this generation. It was John Cena of his generation, and then it was The Rock, and arguably Stone Cold. So I just feel like there's a lot of people at the moment that think this matchup's never going to happen, and that last year was the perfect opportunity. I think last year wasn't the perfect opportunity because you had a guy in Cody Rhodes that is now the John Cena of this generation, and he has been built up to slay these guys and get through and become the next Cena. But I'll elaborate a little bit more. But I want to know where you're at with this one, and if you think The Rock versus Roman Reigns will actually take place. Be it, in my opinion, I think next year WrestleMania is a perfect event for it. But I'd love to know where you're at with that.
Yeah, look, I agree with most of your points. I think for hardcore wrestling fans like me and you, seeing The Rock versus Roman Reigns would almost be like seeing Rock versus Austin, Rock versus Hogan, The Rock versus John Cena. What's the common thread here?
Mm.
Dwayne Johnson,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
I don't know if you saw the post fight or the post fight, the post show press conference of Elimination Chamber, but during question time, I think The Rock said that he grew up in the wrestling business. He mentioned that probably at least 9 or 10 times.
Yeah,
And when
it's his favorite
yeah,
thing to say. You know, I grew up in this business. You know, my grandfather and my father were in the worked for Vince McMahon Senior.
did I mention I grew up in this business? You know what I mean? So this, if you listen to that and how passionate he is about his family heritage in wrestling, I can't see this match not happening. The only concerns that I have is if you look at The Rock, he's 50 plus now, and physically, can he do the same things that he could do? I mean, clearly not in his 20s or his 30s, but even in his 40s when he wrestled John Cena. If you remember in their second match, he tore his abductor off the bone. And it turned out to be a good match. Obviously, we all knew the result, but it probably wasn't a match that you would go back and look at and go, that was The Rock at his best.
Mm.
So, in terms of star power, yes, it's something that the fans and the entire, what do we call it, the WWE universe want to see. It's something that me and you would love to see. But my main question is physically, can The Rock actually do it and put on a match that is worthy of his standard? I mean, who cares what we think at the end of the day? If they went in there and wrestled for 10 minutes, we'd be happy with that. But I think another thing he mentioned in that press conference was, what did he say? I'm a long gamer.
Mm.
And we've seen that in the past, the 3-year build for John Cena, the trilogy with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And now this with Roman Reigns, they've been teasing it, like you said, on the Young Rock show. And then last year, the fans overwhelmed The Rock, and said we do not want this.
Yeah.
We don't want to see this at WrestleMania 40. Get out of the way. Let us have what we want, and come back to this at another time. And just on that point, I thought it was a bit rushed. I didn't think it needed to happen. For those who have been following, wrestling for the past few years, no one. We wanted to see Rock versus Roman. We didn't want to see it at that time. So
Yeah.
I think eventually we will get it. But again, questions surrounding, I guess, the Rock's physical health and whether he can go out there and put on a show the way he is used to. That would be my question.
I think last year was. I think they wanted it for last year when the WrestleMania 20, the WrestleMania 30, the WrestleMania 40. Their centennial events are usually their biggest event, and they want to put on these. They want to try and eclipse, and I think WrestleMania 40 was by far the biggest thing to ever happen. And you look at, in hindsight, you're like, well, it's probably a good thing Rock Roman didn't happen when it happened, because Cody is the biggest star. They needed a new face. They didn't really have a big baby face moving forward, who still had 10 years left in a run. Cody's late 30s, early 40s. So he's still got a lot of years, a lot of miles left to give. And I just think the way they did it last year just felt rushed. It felt like, you're right, it felt rushed. It felt like, all right, you guys want this? Here it is. You want it? And everyone's like, no. Why did he win the Royal Rumble for? What was the point of Cody winning if you're just going to shove him in and shove him out rather, and just have the Roman Rock, which had no other build up except for Roman Reigns saying, should the Rock sit at the head of the table, and everyone cheered. There was no real underlying issue of I want to be the tribal chief, I want to be any of this. It was just like, we're going to face each other, and it was sort of like, what? Why? Okay, I get it. I'll watch it, but why? There needs to be a why. I feel like, and I feel like too with a lot of people saying I've seen the last couple of days will Stone Cold come back and help Cody at WrestleMania? It's
yes,
possible.
He will.
It's possible, and it is very possible that happens. But I don't think that happens, because in my opinion, I think you could have Stone Cold come back, But then Stone Cold's gone, and we're not going to see Stone Cold again. And it's going to be like it'll be a cool thing for us fans to be like, yeah, Stone Cold's come back. He's coming back to
Mm.
kick the Rock's ass. This would be so cool, and it'd be great to see. But imagine Cody's getting his ass handed to him. Cena's just putting it on him. The Rock's beating him with the strap. Travis Scott busts his other eardrum. We're getting this whole WrestleMania style beatdown, and then you just hear John, 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 da, and you
Yeah.
hear Roman Reigns' music come out, and he spears Cena, spears The Rock. Cena's not going to be there next year at WrestleMania 42. He's retiring this year. So then it begs the question, like, well, is that how you set up Roman Reigns versus The Rock? And I think, like, you really could do it that way. I like the moniker of Roman Reigns versus The Rock for the status of being the tribal chief. I think that's always made the most sense because it's something that doesn't need a championship, but it has like this underlying thing that they're fighting for. They're not just
Mm.
fighting for no reason. So I think once Cena finishes up at the end of this year, they're going to need someone for The Rock to get in with next year. And I feel like you said, The Rock's health and where he's at, I don't know if he has much more to give in terms
Mm.
of putting a match on that is worthy of watching a Rock match. Last year, he held his own. It was a tag team match. It was Bloodline Rules or whatever it was, no disqualification. So he was able to sort of hide and you know get these bumps in the crowd and that sort of stuff
Mm.
that weren't as physically demanding. But I feel like he's at a point where it's like if he's going to have a retirement match, like it's good, it's coming up. You've got to have it
Mm.
soon if it's worthy of The Rock, right? Like you look at Cena, he's having his retirement run before 50. I think Rock's like 52 or 53. And credit to Rock,
Yeah, roughly.
Rock's in amazing shape, so he could keep
Mm.
going for a while. But I just think, taking these bumps and stuff, like it's going to wear on his body. And I feel like maybe the perfect send off for The Rock as an active competitor is Roman Reigns versus The Rock. He gives Roman that torch, he passes it on to him as the next big star of this generation at WrestleMania 42. The Rock rides off into the sunset. Now, we could still have The Rock as the final boss. You could still have The Rock
Mm.
running a heel stable. You could still have The Rock come back and run around with Solo or whoever, and it still makes perfect sense. The Rock and Jacob Fatu, I think that would be cool. Jacob's such a crazy dude. Like, Jacob's got world championship potential written all over him. But I think like The Rock's got to get to a point where like he's gonna have his retirement match, and it's like, well, why not do it against a guy that it would make all the sense in the world after last year and everyone's saying like, oh, we want Cody and we want Cody. It makes sense. Yeah, it made sense. But now everyone's like, oh, come on, man, we want Rock versus Roman. And
Mm.
I just don't think the WWE is uh is is silly in their decision making. I think they're going to do like they did for Cena, what's best for business, and ultimately, I do think that that's where we go moving forward.
Yeah, look, the two things that I wanted to pick up on was Stone Cold coming back at WrestleMania 41. He has to come back
Mm,
because we want it. All
mm,
right, I don't care what anyone else wants.
mm. Yeah, I want it. I want to see it.
You want it, I want it, and if he comes in, stuns the Rock, and leaves, I'm happy with that. I'm sure Triple Paul can figure out how to
Yeah.
create a storyline between Rock Roman. But if it doesn't happen, then obviously the only other option would be for Roman Reigns to come in, start the storyline, help Cody. The only thing is that does Cody win? Right? Does he beat John Cena in his last WrestleMania when John Cena is going for a 17th title? So it's almost like a double edged sword to the point where, and notice we haven't spoken about any matches. Very rarely
Mm,
do we speak about matches when this channel is called the Wrestling Review.
mm.
It's almost like we're reviewing scripts, trying to
Yeah.
predict what's going to happen, because essentially that's what it is. It's script writing. It's an art. Like I
Mm,
said, ain't nothing wrong with being a wrestling fan,
mm.
but we're kind of looking at it from another angle of production and predicting what may or may not happen. The first thing is I think regardless of what happens at WrestleMania 41, I think for me and you, we just want to see one last face off
Mm.
between Stone Cold and The Rock at WrestleMania.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
all we want.
For sure.
Give us that, and then you can do whatever you want. We don't care. Just we wanted it last year. We didn't get it, and granted, rightly so. But I think that Stone Cold will return at WrestleMania 41 to help Cody. I don't know how they work that in with John Cena winning the title, but if you're going to do it, now's the time, because if you consider both The Rock and Stone Cold their age, again, it's one thing to do it at 40. It's a totally different thing to do it 50 plus. The second thing there would be, if that doesn't happen, then clearly Roman Reigns comes in and helps and starts a storyline with The Rock, helps Cody either win the championship or even if he doesn't win it, like we kind of saw last year, there was that big explosion of the superstars coming out: John Cena, Seth Rollins, the Usos, The Rock, and then at the end of it, it was just Roman and Cody in the ring, right?
Mm.
You could do something like that where a storyline starts between Roman and The Rock, Roman interferes, and then they kind of fight off, and then it's just John and Cody, and then John could win. That's another option. You could incorporate Stone Cold into that. But ultimately, when you look at storylines and when you look at, as you mentioned, probably the third point here, The Rock's retirement match, it has to be against Roman Reigns. I don't think any of us have a problem seeing The Rock, as long as he's not coming in and interrupting the status quo too often. We've got no problem seeing him at certain times as a villain, as a heel, as a bad guy. But in terms of setting up a retirement match, I think that you should probably email your proposal to Triple Paul, because it sounds pretty good to me. If they can't get Stone Cold involved in WrestleMania 41, then there's really only one guy that has enough star power, essentially, to help Cody Rhodes, and that would be Roman Reigns, which then by extension sets up a match between him and The Rock at WrestleMania 42 the year after or next year.
Yeah, see, that's what I'd like to happen. I just don't know whether this whole triple threat thing with Roman, Seth, and CM Punk doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's a bit off topic, but it just feels like that's a bit like mushed together in like some weird scenario, because like Roman won't be in a main event. It won't be a main event because you've got Jey Uso and Gunther, which is apparently the main event. You know, the Royal Rumble winner goes to the main event, so he'll probably be main event night one. Cody and Cena night two. So it's like, I don't know. That whole thing seems a bit muddled, just sort of shoved together. Like, here you go, guys. You guys make a storyline out of something. CM Punk still got his favor there, so who knows what happens with that. But I thought Roman Reigns was going to come back at Elimination Chamber, spear Seth, and that would set up their little feud. Maybe he didn't. So now it's like, well, maybe they don't have Roman in a match, and maybe they save him for that spot. So it remains to be seen what happens. But either way, you can definitely smell what the WWE is cooking, and it smells good. And I will say, I mean, he's got the people's sunglasses on today. He's the people's champion, Tanera Nathan. But it's the next year is going to be really interesting, because it's nice to see The Rock coming back more often than what he was. You know, when he was there with Cena and during that little 3-year run, he would come back, but it was like once a year, maybe for like a 6 to 8 week program at the start of the year. Then we wouldn't see him. At least we saw The Rock at Bad Blood, and he come at the start of the year, and then he's back again. And you know, for guys like us, when you hear his Hollywood Rock entrance song, no matter how many times he remixes it, it still sounds cool, and you still see him in the vest. And this whole final boss thing is one of maybe the best story arc of his whole career.
Yeah.
I really do think it's one of the best story arcs of his whole career. But look, I think it's going to happen. I think you think it's going to happen. Few variables there on how it all plays out and how it happens. That's what we, as wrestling fans, get to look forward to, is to seeing how it all plays out.
Yes.
So let's see how it plays out. Before we get out of here, any final words from you, as WrestleMania is about 45 days away, and we are about 14 hours away from CYCLONE.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of our focus is on the CYCLONE here, and yeah, it is. I'm up watching it right now. It is pretty bad, but I think, just alluding to your point, I love what we're doing on this channel. We're not talking about matches and all that. Clothesline was cool. That choke slam off the cage was sensational. This is almost the channel for, for wrestling fanatics, but then you have to use your creative mind, don't you? Because I think, as you were speaking, the question is, how does this all play together, right? And wrestling fans, much like MMA fans, can be incredibly toxic in saying we want what we want and we want it now. But at the end of the day, there's a reason You've got guys like Triple Paul and Dwayne Johnson and whoever else is in the decision making room for what happens in the WWE, and versus me working security. There's a reason I'm here and they're there, and I don't think probably with the exception of maybe between say 2017 and probably after COVID, it wasn't looking too good for the WWE in terms of coming from a creative standpoint with Vince
tough times,
still being there.
tough times,
It was rough.
man.
It was rough, man. Like I think I stopped watching wrestling. I stopped watching wrestling altogether probably halfway through high school. So that would have been what, maybe 2007, 2008. I would tune in and out between then and 2017, and then after 2017, I just switched off totally because, again, being a hardcore wrestling fan, there is a level of expectation that we want from the production. It'll be like going to the UFC and watching a bunch of amateur fights. That's really the only comparison. It's like, no, we're here paying our money to see Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, Magomed Ankalaev, maybe. But wrestling is at that point now where you've got the backing of a huge production like TKO. They're essentially partners with the UFC, and with social media, you can watch it 24/7. So, like we said last time, there's no better time to be a UFC fan. In relation to our topic, just coming back to it, I tend to agree with you that the how is most important. And I think that's where we have fun, is predicting how is this going to happen. And then when we come up with our predictions, Triple Ball comes in with something left field, and we go, there it is. That's the reason why he's in charge and we are fans. So I'm looking forward to obviously seeing what unfolds, but also talking to you about what could possibly happen in the near future, specific to The Rock versus Roman Reigns at a future WrestleMania, because you will see the long game unfold, like The Rock says, or Dwayne, whoever he decides to be in those press conferences. You will see it unfold as each premium live event progresses throughout the year. So, my personal opinion, I think it will happen. I think it has to happen. The question is how.
I agree with you 100%. Let's leave this one here for today. But guys, we thank you for checking out the Wrestling Review. This is one of the funnest things I've done in a long time. Is sitting here on the Wrestling Review. It's so much fun. Really good way to freshen up the channel and add a new little element to it. And like we said last time, we both are massive wrestling fans, and I'm sure many of you guys watching this are. I mean, you guys really tuned in for the first episode of the Wrestling Review. So we thank you for tuning in for this episode. And until episode 3, now SmackDown is on tomorrow. We haven't talked about recording anything yet, but it is a cyclone, so we'll see if we might not even have power tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. If we do, and if there's time, maybe we'll try and get something out tomorrow. But we'll see what happens. And until episode 3, we will see you all then.